Hello, everybody, and welcome to Outwatch, a Survivor Rewatch podcast. I am here with three of my friends, and we are episode by episode going through Survivor Pearl Islands and breaking down the episodes, the big moments, and our favorite TV experiences through them. We're on episode 6 of Survivor Pearl Islands, entitled Me and My Snake. And it's a doozy of an episode. This is actually my favorite one that we've done so far. So yeah, looking forward to breaking this down with you guys. And I'm here, like I said, with a few of my friends to talk about this episode of Survivor. Adam, if you had a snake, what would it be named?
I don't know, but I am livid about this episode.
Okay, we're starting off strong.
And I would name
here.
it Captain D.
Triggered.
Captain D. Okay, that's good. Emily, what about you? If you had a snake, what would its name be?
First thing I thought of, Slizzard.
Slizzard? That's perfect.
Like that song, Getting Slizzard.
Yeah.
Yep. It's me.
Unfortunately, that song isn't out in 2003, so...
Oh, yes. My bad.
But that's still a great name for a snake.
Well, fun fact,
Scott,
I did have a lizard for 2 weeks, maybe, and its name was Neela, so maybe I would resurrect resurrect Neela.
Where did Neela
Rip
come
Mila.
I don't know, I read a book once.
Once.
Just
The
once.
one book I've ever
One
read.
book. Yeah. Sorry, Scott, we'd love to know what your snake's name would be.
Oh,
Yeah.
Felix.
Ooh.
That's the first thing that came to my head.
I didn't know they made such an animal.
A Felix snake.
Felix the Snake.
Felix snake.
Great. Well, as always, let's start this episode by taking a trip down to Tree Mail and remembering what happened in Me and My Snake. We start off with Rupert contemplating the decision to vote out Michelle under the wise counsel of his snake Balboa. And then he wakes up the next morning to find poor Balboa has gone to snake heaven. Rip Balboa, gone too soon. I really, really wanted to pull the audio clip of him in this episode early on, where I think it was like Sean is like, "Hey Rupert, how's Balboa?" And he's just like, "He was dead."
Oh, yeah.
Can we take
But
a moment of silence?
Hey,
Yeah,
if we want to bright side this though. Oh no, Steve Irwin hasn't died yet. He's not up there with Steve Irwin. Never mind.
It's
Someday.
2003.
It's 2003.
Steve Irwin in snake heaven too. He doesn't get to go to human heaven with Jesus. He has to go with the snakes.
Steve Irwin, do you think his heaven is human heaven? I don't think so.
Whoa.
Yeah, Scott, let's honor your request here and take a moment of silence for Balboa the snake.
I'm ready to cry.
It's too bad.
So young.
In this very animal-centric episode, meanwhile, in the Morgan tribe, a friendly pelican shows up. Rhino befriends this pelican and names him Pelican Pete. And Austin hates this bird. He wants to kill it. And
Such a douche.
says so over and over again. I know, it's horrible. It's this happy bird who wants to be friends, and Austin's like, I'm going to kill that thing.
Cut its head off. Bleh.
Yeah. Later, Sean and John get in a fight about moving the Drake shelter. It's really pissy and passive-aggressive and really fun. At the reward challenge, tribes take turns firing cannons and are playing for lobster and steak and spices and things like that. So Drake wins this, and they get the spoils. And And they send John over to Morgan to loot, which turns out to be probably a pretty poor decision because John tells the Morgan tribe that they threw the challenge a while back. Morgan doesn't take too kindly to that, and it's not great. At Immunity, it's this weighted polls challenge where various people on the tribe have to hold up some weight, and then they choose who they're going to put more weight on, and whoever has a person left at the end wins. Morgan wins this. They put a ton of weight on Rupert at the beginning and kind of bounce him out, and then take advantage of the weaker members who are left. But it actually turns out that despite Rupert and like Austin being clearly, it seems, the strongest people there, like Savage and even like Krista take as much as, if not more weight than Rupert and Austin, hold it for just as long. So an interesting challenge. Okay, so at this point, back on the Drake tribe, they're thinking about who to vote out, and Trish is the first person to really put the name out there to vote out Rupert. She thinks that he's too strong, in too big of a power position, knowing both tribes, and she wants to vote him out. But that kind of backfires because Sandra tells Krista that Trish told her that they wanted to vote out Rupert. And then Krista tells Sean, and soon at least half of the tribe is thinking to vote out Trish instead. And then, yeah, Sean, also kind of playing the middle here, is playing it up with John and making him believe that they're on the same page when really Sean, yeah, is kind of playing John and he doesn't recognize it. And after all this kind of goes down, Rupert is ready to cry at tribal council.
I'm ready to cry.
Because Drake has fallen so far from their point of dominance to now. And in a pretty close vote, actually, Rupert survives, and Trish is sent home as the 6th person voted out of Survivor Pearl Islands. I think the best strategic episode so far. You actually saw lots of like scrambling and strategy playing out going into Tribal, which I really enjoyed. I thought it was cool. And so yeah, I thought it was a good episode. Guys, what were some of your favorite parts of this episode?
This was the most stressful episode for me, personally.
Yeah.
The two people on the chopping block being Rupert and Trish, both on my team. And
yeah, you lost Trish from your squad.
Rupert, a pretty big player, too, so the idea that he might have gone just would have sunk me. Yeah, this was a stressful episode for me. I didn't feel like they strategized the immunity challenge well. I think instead of just like piling all the weight on one person, spread it out, make someone fatigue themselves out, and like, you know, focus heavily on someone. But Rhino didn't have any weight until way late in the game. You know, and yeah, this was definitely a much better episode than the last one.
I was a big fan of the challenges in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I can honestly say I hadn't seen either of those before used. I just thought they were kind of interesting. And the immunity challenge in particular, I was like, hey, this is kind of cool. I nicknamed the immunity challenge Savage's Last Stand. But
yeah, there was at the end of this challenge, I wrote a note down. Is like, so Savage like is on the verge of tears, right?
yeah.
And which has the potential for this really like good emotional moment. And Jeff's like, Andrew, you look like you're about to cry. And he's like, yeah. Jeff's like, Cool. So anyway, whereas more seasoned Jeff would like pull this awesome story moment out of that, but season 7 Jeff's not quite there yet.
Yeah,
The evolution of Jeff is a big
they
one.
missed a real opportunity there. Yeah, because
Yeah.
Savage was like, you could tell that he was very bothered by what John told them when he came to loot. And it's like he put all of his, it's like he went into like the phone booth, came out with a Superman cape on. He's like, I'm gonna get this W. And they did.
Gonna eat a
He's
W.
gonna eat a W. That's a W.
And he did. Ate it right up. Just like a bleeding clam smoothie.
Ew. It was interesting that when John went to loot, his intention was to tell Morgan that they had thrown the challenge. If I'm remembering that correctly,
Yeah.
because then that would kind of lower their morale or make them question their capabilities, right?
That was John's intention.
Right, yeah. But then, it was funny because they
yeah, it
interviewed
did the
Andrew and
opposite.
he was like, no, they didn't throw that challenge. Like, we really earned that. I was like, okay, Andrew. But then he killed it in
Yeah.
that immunity challenge, and I think it's because he was just so determined.
Yeah.
Although Krista put up a great fight, so props to her. I was very proud.
Yeah.
She did, man.
She was
She
killing
held
it.
it
She did.
down. Also, her face going into that challenge with like the thousands of red bug
Yeah,
bites
she got
on
ate
it.
up.
Yeah.
That was messed up, man.
Yeah.
I've noticed on Rupert, like on his arms, he's
Yeah.
got some gnarly bug bites.
Seriously, it's
Yeah, they've
gross.
showed a bunch of B-roll of people's backs and stuff, and they are like getting devoured, man.
That's like their bed
it's
is
pretty disgusting.
right on the ground. Like it's their bed's like right on the sand basically. So it's they needed to do something about that, and I don't think they did enough in just putting one piece of bamboo under their bed. Mm-hmm. I think it's a good start, but
Yeah, that's why they were wanting to move the shelter in the first place, was
Yeah.
to raise it up above the sand to try and keep the bug biting down. I'd love to talk more about our Pelican Pete
Oh,
sequence.
great, because I was about to interject here. I definitely love Ryan O a lot more.
Yes.
Had no opinions about him before this, but now I respect him because he was really nice to that pelican.
Yeah. It's a really great Rhino episode.
Yeah.
Rhino.
he's
that's my
really
guy.
he's really coming out of this game like the last episode he was really willing to learn from Rupert, and now he comes into this, he's got the way with animals, and he's just a really great character or person.
And I was like, yeah, person. Show contestant.
Yeah, he seems like a really nice guy and is like physically strong enough. He's not one of the superstars, but he's still good. We haven't seen a whole lot of opportunities for him to strategize yet, but yeah, he would be a guy I think if I were going into this season, especially at this point, think would have a really good shot of winning.
Could we call him a dark horse? Could we call him a dark horse?
I think you could. You could call him a
All
dark
right.
horse.
I'm gonna call him that.
Yeah, I think because he's on Morgan, you can definitely call him a dark horse.
Numbers are pretty even, though,
It's
at
true.
this point. For as badly as Morgan started out, at the end of this episode, they are even.
Which is so hard to believe.
Yeah.
They're even in number of people on the tribe, but I bet in a merger, Morgan is more likely to stick together.
I think you're right. They seem to have more cohesion at this point than Drake, which is already talking about voting out strong members because of their, potential to win. You don't really see that at Morgan.
Well,
at this
and this,
point.
like, the strategic attempt to blindside Rupert was just, I understood the effort, but you're losing challenges. You're voting people out. You can't get rid of strong people like that. And John isn't going to wind up in an alliance with Rupert. He lost his alliance with Sean now as a result of it. Trish is gone, so one person he teamed up with to vote Rupert out is gone. John really he put himself on a nice an ice sheet just shipped off into the ocean.
Yeah, I was going to ask you guys what you thought of the strategy of a Rupert vote at this point. Is it still too early to start thinking about voting him out, or was it maybe a smart thing that didn't work out to try and take him out here?
I think you're reaching that point in the game where I don't think it's completely out of the realm of possibility to discuss it. I mean, I feel like we are getting kind of close to that merge, and if you don't want to face him one-on-one or 1v whatever, I mean, it might be smart. I mean, maybe she could have gone about it a different way, but, that's kind of my thought.
Yeah, because at this point, we're down to, what, 10?
10
after this vote?
Yeah.
Is that correct? Yeah. So, yeah, historically, you know that a merge is at least coming soon. So yeah, you start to balance that out. Like, is it worth keeping him, knowing that he's a big threat to just like win a bunch of stuff and win the game with the merge coming up, or do you try and take that threat out, but run the risk of like losing another immunity or two in the meantime?
You also got to ask if
it's a thing that you
also have to ask
weigh.
if Rupert is going to be a strong competitor in individual immunity, though. Like we've talked about this, like he holds his own in like endurance, like strength endurance challenges, but I really don't think he's going to be that strong of a competitor, and so you have to assume that he's not going to win an individual immunity every single time. You're going to get a chance to take him out. I wouldn't say this is like a bad move. It's just it went catastrophically wrong when it didn't pan out.
Yeah.
Like that's what was bad about it, was that they didn't make it work.
Right. And this is, a lot of things here that are kind of like a common way that this sort of thing shakes out, right? So you've got Trish, who is pitching to make the big move of voting out Rupert.
Wait,
right?
she tells...
And then
she
probably
talks about
tells
it with
too
like
many
4 people. Just
or
like
the wrong people.
She doesn't talk about it with like John beforehand and then make John the sacrificial lamb who goes out and tells everyone else, or, whatever. Like she's just like, there's like 4 people there, a majority of whom are in an alliance with Rupert.
Yeah, she tells everybody but Rupert and Krista. The problem was that she told Sandra too, who then turned around and told Krista, who told Rupert, and now they're all gonna gun for Trish if they weren't already, knowing that they threw his name out. And then now Sean is in, again, a common like Survivor spot where he was the guy on the bottom, right? Like going into this, it was like, yeah, we're going to vote Sean out. And he goes from being on the bottom to them having like higher ambitions and the like targets totally switching up, and then him becoming like the swing vote, like going from, the place of bottom to the place of making the deciding vote, right? Which happens a lot. It's not necessarily a good long-term place to be in because you're right, back to alienating half the tribe when you make that swing vote. But at least in that one, that one vote, you've got a lot of power.
Survivor's cool because you can be on the bottom at one moment and like you said, in the next, in 10 minutes, you can be right deciding who goes home. And it's kind of cool. Just because you're on the bottom one week doesn't mean you got to stay there.
I think it was started from the bottom. Now we here. No. Yeah.
Well, this is 2003.
relevant.
I think Drake is still acting at this point.
I think you're right.
Listen, I've been trying to find a way to incorporate Drake into this podcast because one of the tribes is called Drake. So I will keep trying.
He's still Aubrey.
Be prepared. Thank you.
Yeah, he's the guy on Degrassi.
Yeah.
And so what would have been interesting here is if Sean, because, John comes to Sean and says, vote Rupert, right? And Sean's like, oh, yeah, totally, got to do it. It's going to be a big surprise, if Sean goes along with that and votes with them, we're at a 3-3 tie. And I don't actually remember what the tie rules are this early on, but
It's not fire at this point, is it?
no, that's only in like a final 3 or a final 4 situation. Like at the very end. The way that ties usually work are when there is a tie, everybody revotes, but you can only vote for one of those two people involved in the tie, right? So if it was like, I don't know, a 3-3-1 tie, right, you can now only vote for the 2 3s. Which, gives a chance, if there's an extra vote, to break the tie to happen, or it also gives people like a chance to flip after the initial vote. And then if it's still a tie, we draw rocks, and everybody except the people that were voted for draw a rock, and whoever gets the odd rock goes out. So it's like a heavy deterrent against ties. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Which is a really interesting and like bold rule in Survivor. That's always crazy when it happens. It doesn't happen very often because like, you're saying that you're willing to put your own game on the line to either like protect the person on your alliance or because you so desperately want this other person out. So it doesn't happen very often. So it would have been interesting if a tie happened here. What would happen?
Do you think Sean should have voted for Rupert?
I am going to say no for 2 reasons. Because that would have forced a tie, which would have put him theoretically at risk. And at this point, I don't think it's worth it for him to put his own game in danger when he was, the target less than 24 hours ago, and now he's off the chopping block. Like, just run with that and vote for the easy person that's not you. Secondly, I think it's good for him to have Rupert around, kind of like what we talked about last episode, where it's like he is similarly to Rupert, like a strong physical threat. Rupert is a stronger physical threat, and to keep him around would, theoretically take the target off him a little bit,
Yeah.
So I think Sean did make the right call in voting for Trish.
Gertch, do you think it's a smart idea to even entertain the idea of taking out Rupert at this point, being the survivor buff of the group?
Sure. I think it's smart to entertain it. If you've got like a clear shot and you can get everyone on board, I think it would make sense to take the shot. The problem here was that she told people, well, Sandra namely, that was more loyal to Rupert than she was to her. Whenever you can get a power player out by completely blindsiding them, that's like the better way of doing it, right? When they have no idea it's coming, they can't like scramble to try and form something against you. They just don't do that because they don't know it's them. So,
True.
But Rupert caught wind of it. I think he had maybe a suspicion, even if, Sandra and Krista hadn't told him. So if it was such that, he had no idea it was coming, I think it would have made sense to take a shot at him. But obviously that's not how it worked out.
This was also ridiculously satisfying to watch John deflate as Trish was voted out. Like, he was so cocky. And I bet Jeff got like just so much satisfaction from watching this, from knowing that John has no idea, he's not in control anymore. He has, any power he thought he had.
Yeah, that is it's a good moment when you see the like cocky villain get like, oh wait, I am wrong. The cannon challenge, Scott, you said you liked that. I had one big gripe with that, and that's that the targets didn't explode or like shatter when they were hit. It just kind of like got a little dent. And I'm like, what the heck? Why do these not shatter?
I thought they were gonna fall over.
Yeah, that would have been way cooler.
Yeah, or something. It's like, oh, they hit it, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think just in general, they had this season. I think they have good ideas. I just think they lack the theatrical like creativity at this point to like make it happen.
Yeah, I really
make it cool.
I really liked the design for the immunity too. I went into it thinking like, oh, this is cool, but then it just like wasn't that engaging, and I don't know why. You're right. Maybe it is just in like the presentation, but it didn't really come through.
Immunity was the weight challenge, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it wasn't that engaging because it wasn't played very well.
Well, and also my first thought was, oh, great, another brute, like, strength challenge against. So it's just going to be, Rupert and Austin. And apparently Savage and Krista.
Because in my mind, what happened was they were like, oh, let's get out the strongest person and we'll pick them all off. Mm-hmm. But, like, you only have so much weight. You only have so much time. And instead of, like, I don't know, putting 40 pounds on someone and then, putting like do Austin and then Andrew and then Austin and then Rhino and then Austin and then Andrew and then Austin and then, so you're hitting the strong person more, but you're adding weight to everyone else. Cause like Ryan was going to be in that game forever because he didn't have any weight on him for so long.
Yeah. That's a good point.
And you're not wearing anyone out that way. I just don't think it was played well. And John was one of the people involved in that, and he didn't strategize that well. And so I don't know. I don't see him as a very smart player.
Yeah, I was going to ask about their strategy on that. That's an interesting strategy to do, and I think it makes sense. I understand, like, the wanting to weigh down, like, Rupert in particular. It's like, this dude's going to go forever unless we just knock him out, And so I understand that, but yeah, your way of thinking about it makes a lot of sense too.
Yeah, because on the Morgan tribe, you're not going to really need to it's not going to take near as much weight for any specific one person than it would take for Rupert.
Right.
Because they're just not as big of a brute, like they're not as brute force as them. As Rupert.
Yeah. So I liked the challenge. It just wasn't played well, in my opinion. Which, and, I don't know, like, put me on a beach for 17 days and see if I come up with that strategy. So,
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I'm sure there's as much of that going on as anything else.
I was going to say, one of my favorite parts of this episode was during the Pelican. I was just looking at my notes, so this popped up. Yeah. But when Dara was making fun of Austin.
Yeah. He's scared of everything.
He's scared of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And her voice.
Yeah.
That was funny.
She had a point, though. He flips out about water. He's always worried about getting sick. He's scared of birds. He's just very scared.
Yeah.
He's buzzed.
Yeah.
He is buzzed. Sometimes he wears that on the front of his pants. He had his pants on backwards the other day, I noticed.
Yeah, we should have brought that up in the Island Fashion segment.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that.
Yep. And he finally got a little clip or something to make his shorts fit, which is just a blessing. So we don't have to see his booty anymore.
Yeah. Showing some booty.
Yeah.
On the scale from...
Hope he's wearing something under that.
Yeah.
On the scale from buzzed to loaded, Austin is more on the buzzed side. Yeah. I had a rare moment of being impressed by Rupert's strategic gameplay this episode, where after it gets back to him that he's being targeted, that he goes to Sean and kind of like, who he is like, annoyed with and doesn't like, kind of like swallows his pride and recognizes that he needs to like butter him up, and it's like, Sean, dude, me and you, we got this. We're together. We're the same. Vote for Trish, right? Yeah. In that moment, I was like, hey, good move, Rupert. Like, that's the right move here. You need his number, and yeah, you need to flatter him like this in order to do that. I was really impressed with that.
It's interesting that he doesn't go to Trish. Like, Rupert seems like the kind of guy who would confront his accuser.
Yes.
And so it was very surprising that, like, he actually managed to keep that a complete secret, that
Right.
Well, now you're going home.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
and like
that was
Sean,
a good
Sean
moment of
knew he was
restraint.
going home. Like
Yeah.
it was, Rupert didn't hide who he didn't like, and
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't know if you watched the preview for next episode. Did any of you?
yeah,
Yeah.
Didn't actually.
Well, it starts with like a Rupert in the night of camp just like screaming, "Who the voted for me?" So he doesn't hold it in for much longer.
yeah, yeah. I'm very excited for the next episode. This season got really good in like a few episodes ago, and like these past few episodes have been pretty solid. Like the gameplay is more interesting. The challenges are range from okay to good, and
Right.
yeah. It's
The one other. Go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say it's just like the season is coming to its own.
Yeah.
And because it's sorry, because you ranked it, or we decided to do this first, and you said Rob has this ranked at number 3
Correct. Yeah.
out of the
third
first
best season ever.
out of 30 episodes, 30 seasons that he's ranked.
Yeah, the first 30 he ranks.
Yeah. So that's really high. And up until this point, I don't think I've seen, a third best season.
Sure.
This point. So
Yeah.
I'm really happy with how it's turning out, even though Trish was gone this episode. Seriously, I was like I was so chill and everything, and then we get back to camp and Trish is like, we should get rid of Rupert. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
And then Rupert's like, well, now we're going to get rid of her. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I was so upset.
Yeah. The season is definitely carried by its big characters, and that's what makes it one of the best ones, is that it has some of the most memorable Survivor characters, and Rupert and Johnny Fairplay and Sandra and Savage, these are some of like the big Survivor people. And yeah, I think it does continue to pick up. One other question I was going to ask before Tribal was, it seemed to me like Sandra really makes the play to keep Rupert, because she is one of the ones that's told by Trish they're going to vote for him, and she starts the cycle of telling people, hey, they're going to vote for Rupert, let's vote for her instead. Do you think that's a good move by Sandra, or should she have stuck with that plan and taken the shot at Rupert here?
I think it goes back to kind of what we talked about. It's kind of having that person in your alliance, but also like somebody who can kind of take shots for you, or like in place of you. So like if you're in an alliance with Rupert, like one, you're getting a very loyal person, but also, he's a much bigger target than she is at this point. So I think it's smart for her to lobby to keep him around, especially going into, as we've talked about, the merge might be coming up soon. It's good to have as many numbers with you as possible.
Yeah. So Tribal, it's a really fun Tribal too, with the, deep, forlorn Rupert.
I'm ready to cry.
Who's ready to cry. And then there's this like, a lot of sort of like the cryptic tribal council talk, where it's like, yeah, it's going to be a big blindside, or the person who thinks they're most comfortable is going to go home. And like, everyone's like, oh, who are they talking about? Sandra has a really, really great soundbite at the end. I forget what it is exactly, but where she says something to that effect, where it's like,
yeah, the person going home tonight doesn't know that they're going home or something like that. Like,
yeah, a really good tribal soundbite. Sandra has a good episode this episode too.
Yeah. We see her as more like a calm and thoughtful player.
Mm-hmm.
Unless she chooses to get loud too.
Yeah, she has that ability.
What
I don't
the
know if
heck?
you've heard about that or not.
You know what? I can get loud too. What the?
Yeah. What the?
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
Anything else we missed?
I would also say Rupert brought up in Tribal Council that was this the Tribal Council where he brought up throwing the challenge?
Good question.
I feel like it was.
Think so.
I thought it was this
It
one where
must
he
have
was
been
like,
earlier.
he was like, this is the worst. That was the worst decision this tribe ever made. That was the worst thing for this tribe. Or
It could have been.
I feel like it was this one. It was either this one or last one. We didn't talk about it then, but yeah, I think Rupert is spot on with that. I think the second they decided to throw the challenge, that's when things got bad for him.
Yeah, because they lost 3 people
it
in a
has
row.
gone downhill since then. Do you think it was like the direct result of that, or do you think that's just, circumstantial?
Well, the second they threw it is when that twist happened, and really Morgan used that twist to their advantage, and really Drake hasn't really recovered from that. So you could make that case.
Well, I mean,
That is true.
they win. Morgan wins one challenge because Drake threw the challenge. So now they're going back to camp thinking like, okay, we can win challenges.
Yeah.
They take Rupert back to camp, which was a really good twist for them because it meant that someone showed them how to actually use their spear thing and, fish. He pushed them to move their camp and not fight the ocean and then turn around and win a reward challenge. So now they've won back-to-back challenges and momentum is a big thing in this game.
Yeah.
I think Morgan the entire time was like, oh, we just need the confidence to win. Or like Andrew kept saying that. And I don't think I believed it until now. Like I kind of feel like he might have been right about it.
The other thing too is Drake threw that challenge thinking, and from what they showed in the episode, oh my gosh, we just need to get rid of somebody. And then you get to see the alliances and the conflicts, and then there's divisions in the tribe, and that affects how they perform in the challenges. So that just created a huge issue, bigger than they could have expected.
They're a lot less cohesive now.
They did expect, yeah.
Yeah, you really don't know where anyone stands until you get to a tribal. The only real way to measure trust or whatever is to see how you vote. And until then, it's like, yeah, you never really know. Well, let's take a look at the scores. Why don't we?
Okay.
As per usual, you can really only get points at this point for winning immunity, voting correctly, and surviving. So, Emily, you got 2.5 points this episode. John only got you half a point because he voted incorrectly. He voted for Rupert rather than Trish. Adam, you got 3 points because Trish got 0 points because you did not survive this episode and didn't vote correctly.
I still feel good about that.
Yeah, that's a surefire way not to get points. And Scott, even though you lost one of your players in the first episode, you've gotten the max amount of points since. So you got another 3 points. Each of your players voted correctly that were on Drake. And so the scores at this point, Emily and Scott, you are tied at 9 points. And Adam, you've got a commanding 1.5 lead at 10.5.
1.5. Lose a member, still pulling away. What up?
Tribe Adam.
Me and my snake.
I will say, on our draft episode, I said my goal was to get second. Right now,
You're within.
I am within striking range of second.
Wonder what the tiebreaker would go to. Most players in the finals or something.
We should no tiebreaker. We should have a head-to-head fire making challenge.
It's like in your backyard.
Yeah. Also, I've been thinking about this for some time now.
Yeah.
And I would like to name my team the Lancasters, or Lancasters, because they're from England. because Sir James Lancaster was a pirate from 1591 to 1603
No, he was an Elizabethan sea dog.
in India. He was a pirate.
That's what it
Get
says.
it straight.
Thanks, Wikipedia.
He was a pirate.
No, he was a sea dog.
It's the same thing.
Sea
I think
dog is cooler.
I think everyone knows he's a sea dog. Adam.
Okay, fine. Sir James Lancaster. So from henceforth I shall be known as the Lancasters.
Okay, the Lancaster tribe.
Cool.
Any of the other of you want to rename your tribe?
I'm gonna go ahead and make a plug for our next episode, and I will announce it then.
Okay.
I'm gonna say you guys can
Excited
take
for
the
that.
time. I
Next
took
time
some
on
time.
Outwatch, I come up with a new team name.
Oh, I found one I like. His name is Jean Bart, and he's a buccaneer from France.
So the Bart tribe.
Yeah, I'm the Bart tribe.
Bart retired an admiral in French service.
Yeah, he's an honorable man.
Admiral Bart.
I'm gonna name
Scott, I'm
mine
going to go ahead and call yours Pelican Pete.
Oh, I love that.
Can I name my tribe Jameis Winston? The Jameis Winston tribe,
Sure.
James Winston.
because he's a buccaneer.
He is.
Okay, so that's it.
That's good.
The Winston tribe.
Yeah. We'll, for following seasons, we'll name our tribe something creative like that from the start. That's a good idea. So we got the Bart tribe, the Lancaster tribe, and the Jameis Winston tribe. Well, next time on Outwatch, Scott will come up with a name for his team. Except that's already been done. But perhaps more relevantly, we've got a 2-part episode. So we'll get part 1 of the next episode, which is called What the ... question mark.
The
Big
long
things
name.
in store. Big twists, judging by the name of the episode. So until then, make sure you subscribe to our feed, whether you're on iTunes or Spotify. Hit us with those 5-star reviews. That is really meaningful to us. And follow us on Twitter, Outwatch Podcast. And yeah, slide into the DMs if you've got any feedback for us too, as long as it's nice and doesn't make me upset. Thanks for watching.
Bad reviews. I'm just saying.
And if you want to send me any Survivor audio clips too, I'd appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for listening. Until next time, the tribe has spoken.